Good morning. If I didn't get to meet you personally, hopefully I will on the way out. I am so excited to be here, and I want to thank you first and foremost. First of all, thank you to Priscilla and Nisar for bringing me here today to talk about personal safety. Thank you for coming, because I know that you don't have to be here, and you actually chose to be here. And to me, that's really exciting, because that means that we're in a room full of people that care about this kind of stuff. I know that personal safety could be kind of a dry topic, filled with a lot of do's and don'ts, but I'm gonna do my best to get you as excited about personal safety as I am. First of all, I'd like to get a show of hands in the room. How many people here, just so I know who's in the room, how many people here are in residential real estate? Most. Wow, okay. How about commercial? Okay. And how many people here are not realtors but still in the industry and do other stuff? Okay. Got it. So most of you are residential realtors. Is that correct to say? Okay, great. You know the pros and cons of your work, probably better than I do. The pros: you can set your own schedule. You can make a lot of money. Yeah? Yeah. You can find people their dream homes and properties. That's really fulfilling. Yes? Cool. And then there's some cons, just like there are in any industry. You have to learn to live through the lean times. I know that. And you are down with OPP. Now, if there's any fans of 90s hip hop in the room, I don't know if there are, but you know that OPP stands for what? Other people's property. Thank you. I didn't know if there'd be many. Yeah, exactly. So you're in other people's property. You're in a vulnerable situation many times, whether you've thought of it that way or not. That is the reality. As we get into this talk, first I always like to set an intention for the session, right? Whether I'm teaching personal safety, self-defense, whatever it is, I like to set intentions for all of us. And basically this talk, we're gonna go through more mindset training than just do's and don'ts for realtors. How does that sound? Good, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Having my A team up here, thank you. So my intention for you and for the session to get out of this is to teach you the mindset and to empower you with tools and techniques that you can implement starting today. As a result of that, you'll be able to make better decisions. Who here would like to make better decisions? And quickly on your feet? Yeah. Who here would like to develop better relationships? Right? Better relationships with potential clients, with your clients. Yes? Which could all lead to, who here would like to make more money? Like 5 hands went up. So who here would like to make more money? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Now we're on the same page. And I'll show you how the different things that we're going to go through can lead to all these different outcomes. Oops. What we're going to go through today, the ABCs of personal safety. A stands for awareness. We're going to talk about how to be more aware, again, shifting into a different mindset, right, of deeper awareness, where you can connect with things like your intuition, which will help you make better decisions, quicker decisions, think on your feet. Also helps you develop better relationships when you're more aware. B stands for boundaries, right? We're going to talk about both physical and personal boundaries, right? How to set clear boundaries. C stands for communication, how to powerfully communicate your boundaries, how to powerfully communicate and with your clients, right? Whatever it is that you need to powerfully communicate. And D, sorry, guys, I can't get used to this, sorry. D stands for de-escalate and defense. So if you ever do find yourself in a dangerous situation, that's where we're gonna go. Hopefully, the point is to avoid danger at all costs. And that's where the mindset starts with the ABCs. Make sense? Okay, great. So we're gonna go a little deep here again, not just a list of do this and don't do this. But first, if you're kind of out there thinking like, what does this woman know about personal safety? Right? I know there's some of you might be out there thinking that, and that's okay. You have the card, okay, good. You're from New York, I get it. It's like, I would be thinking that too. Like, what does she know about personal safety? Here's what I do know. I know fear, and I know what fear can do to the brain and body. I know what intense, traumatic fear can feel like, because the first time I experienced it was a beautiful sunny Tuesday morning. I was about a couple years out of college and working in Manhattan. Got out of the subway at Wall Street, looked up and saw 2 holes coming out of the World Trade Center, because that sunny Tuesday morning was September 11th, 2001. And I worked 3 blocks south of the World Trade Center. So as I'm trying to get my bearings and figure out what in the world is going on, I get to my place of work, which is on the corner of Rector and the West Side Highway, if you're familiar with that. And there are just certain things that I remember about that day and that morning. A lot of it's blurry, but I remember getting to the corner and seeing a police officer staring up at the towers and bawling his eyes out. And it still gets me to this day. I just remember thinking, something is terribly wrong. So I get to my place of work and they won't let me in. Said, you can't go to work today. I'm like, but I'm here, where else am I gonna go? And the cell phones are out and I can't make a call and subways stopped working, so what am I supposed to do? So the doorman says, go inside the lobby, make a phone call, I don't know. So as I do, I'm like, who am I gonna call? I guess I'll call my mom because she's probably worried. And as I'm on the phone with her, the first tower falls. A swarm of people come into the building, into the lobby, and I get pushed into a utility closet where all these people were running for shelter. Here I am, for the first time in my life, completely frozen with fear, paralyzed with fear. I don't know if you're familiar with the fear response of the body, but there are 3 things that you might do in a traumatic fear response. The first is fight. I definitely wasn't fighting. The second is flight, right? Taking off, running the other way. And the third is freeze. If you've ever been in the freeze, know that it is not your fault. Know that it is a physiological response that your body is doing. Your brain is shutting down to protect yourself. So as I'm sitting there, frozen in fear, with tears streaming down my face, this woman grabs me and says, what's your name? Jennifer. She said, Jennifer, I'm Nancy, and you and I, we're gonna get out of here today. I was like, okay. So we got kicked out of that building, and to make a long story short, Nancy and I ran through the streets covered in the ashes, and we finally, after hours later of getting kicked out of building after building, we finally made it to the martial arts school that I had just started training in a few months prior. And there, all of a sudden, I felt safe. I got water from my friends there. I got a shower to wash the ashes off my body. I got a TV to see what was actually going on in the world. And that feeling of safety, that feeling of refuge actually became a metaphor for my life. For the next 6 months, I was out of a job. That building actually doesn't even stand there anymore today. I was bartending to pay the bills at night, and all I wanted to do in the day was go to that martial arts school and train. And all of a sudden, I started to feel all these amazing benefits, physical, mental, and spiritual. Physically, my body's getting stronger, right? I'm training my muscles. Mentally, I started to feel more confident, right? I'm learning these like badass, like life-saving skills. This is really empowering. And spiritually, I started to feel grounded again. I started to feel a sense of purpose. So I basically spent the next 10 years of my life, a whole entire decade in Manhattan, training as much as I could in that same school with those same teachers. And I decided in those 6 months, right, early on, that this is what I wanted to do for a living. I wanted to help other people feel those same benefits physically, mentally, and spiritually. But I know I had a lot of training to do, and teaching martial arts doesn't really pay the bills. So I became a personal trainer, developed a private practice in Lower Manhattan, later on went to school to become a health coach, and then later on, no one knew what a health coach in 2005 was, so I went back to school to get a master's degree in nutrition, all the while having a practice in New York. And that same, sorry, to bounce back, that same year of 2000, right, 2001, sorry, one night I was walking home late at night, my apartment in the East Village, late at night, early in the morning, whatever you want to call it, 2, 3 a.m., right? And I started to listen to a voicemail. And as I'm on that voicemail, all of a sudden, boom, somebody, a guy, is up my dress grabbing me. Now this time, after some more training in martial arts, which fear response do you think I went into? Just take a guess. Yeah, this time, because of the training, I believe, I was able to go into fight. And I started to use my body and make myself big and alpha and use my tone and my voice and an attitude like, how dare you get in my space? Right? And that's when things shifted. I remember seeing his face go from like, to, oh damn, I just messed with the wrong woman, right? And he took off running, and I chased him down the street wearing my favorite stilettos that night. Not that I recommend that, but that was that fight response, right? The adrenaline comes into your body and like, whew, okay. So, in 2009, so over that 10-year period, I decided, you know what? I love the health coaching, and I love talking about nutrition and fitness and all that stuff, but what's so like meaningful to me is this self-defense. So I started a training program called Stilettos in Self-Defense. Moved out to Los Angeles, the media got wind of it, and next thing you know, I'm on shows like The Today Show and Rachel Ray and working with Marie Osmond and all these wonderful people. My very favorite moment is in the top right-hand corner. That's me teaching Carrie Fisher herself, may she rest in peace, how to kick ass while wearing her favorite shoes. In that moment, she turns to the camera, and this is live TV, and says, "Is this when I get to kick them in the balls?" Hence the laughter. And yeah, it was really wonderful. And then in the last 5 or so years, I've taken the Stilettos in Self-Defense program, rebranded a little so it's more gender neutral and gender friendly, and turned them into more safety, personal safety programming like you're gonna get today. While I was doing, this programming and teaching these women's self-defense courses, I started to do some research. And I found out some pretty horrible stats that I'm sure you're familiar with. But 1 in 5 women in the United States will be the victim of some kind of sexual assault in her lifetime. When I heard that for the first time, I was like, whoa, that is really, really scary. But you know what's even more scary? Globally, if we team up with our sisters around the globe, the number goes to 1 in 3. 1 in 3 women will be the victim of some kind of sexual violence. And I just thought, yeah, there's more we can be doing. We can be showing up, right? When our conferences offer personal safety courses. We can take what we learn and then empower others with that knowledge. So I ask you now that if there's something here today that you learn or that you're reminded of, because a lot of it is common sense, right? And you're just gonna be like, yeah, I know that, but okay, let's now enforce it and let's share it with somebody else. Maybe someone that you work with, maybe someone in your life and your family, etc. Are you on board with that? Would you each one teach one? That's what we call it in martial arts. Fantastic. That way I know that this message is spreading exponentially. And then I thought, the different industries, what would be good industries to reach out to with this knowledge? Well, according to one of the latest NAR membership statistics, 67% of realtors are female. Now do the 1 in 5 of an industry that's 67%. Yes? Okay, good. So I know that there are men here, and I don't want you to tune out and think this presentation is just geared towards women, right? Because personal safety is not just about even assault. It's not just about sexual assault, but it's freedom from things like stalking, which is a real thing. Freedom from theft, right? You're in these people's homes. You don't want things to get stolen, etc. Freedom from harassment, right? We get harassed a lot. Probably not even, some of us are so used to it that we don't even realize it. And of course, acts of terrorism, right? Having this safety mindset can keep you safer in all these different ways. So we go back to the intention set, and I'm just going to add one thing. We can make better decisions when we're more aware, when we're tapped into our intuition. We can develop better relationships. We can make more money because of that. And we can also be an ally, AKA a better bystander. Yes? Right? That means helping each other. That means going back to your offices with some good safety techniques. That means having conversations around these topics that may be a little bit taboo and creating space for that. Yes? Yeah, it's really, really important. And I'm just going to share a quick little story of a national realtor conference that I spoke at last year. And I gave this presentation. And during the presentation, there was a point where I asked for feedback, and a woman got up and shared that she had been sexually assaulted while hosting an open house because she didn't listen to her intuition. She also said that was the first time that she ever shared that information publicly in a setting just like this. And I wanted to cry for her, but I also wanted to applaud her for sharing, because when we talk about these things and when we share these stories, it makes it safe for other people to share theirs. Does that make sense? Good. All right, awesome. All right, we ready to get into the ABCs? Okay, let's talk about awareness with the goal of enhancing our awareness through visual, auditory, and kinesthetic ways and tapping into our intuition. That's the most important part. Before I get there, this is a picture of my dad. On the left, he was a rookie cop, NYPD, who later went to become a detective, a narcotics detective. And he retired when I was very young and got into real estate. And he was a real estate broker, and he sold land for for his entire career, second career, I should say. That's a picture of him on the right, about 4 weeks before he unexpectedly and suddenly died from cancer. And I just love his attitude, right? And when I think of this personal safety training and the mindset, I just think of my dad. Growing up, it wasn't so fun because when I got home late at night, it was like, where were you? Right? All these questions. You don't get away with a lot when your dad is an ex-cop. But the cool thing about it was, I got this sense of awareness through him. He was always kind of checking things out. First of all, what do detectives do? Say it out loud. Give me answers. Ask a lot of questions and investigate, observe, right? They're constantly observing And they're constantly asking questions. My dad would, if he met you, he would know where you're from, what your last name was, where your parents are from, like all of this information within the first 5 minutes, and people would be like, like spitting out these answers. And honestly, most people that didn't have much to hide loved it, right? Because it's connecting, you're connecting with people. It's conversation, yeah, it's great. But when I was, when I moved into my first dorm room at Fordham University in the Bronx, he was the dad who was like checking out the exits and looking up the fire escape and making sure the windows were safe and all the exits were secure. And every apartment I moved into in the city after that, he would do the same. I don't think most dads did that, right? These are very cool things that I grew up with as this mindset. So the first thing I want you to think about when you're hosting an open house or meeting with a client or checking out a commercial piece of real estate is go in with a detective mindset. Observe. Tap into that deeper awareness. Ask a lot of questions. You'll get so much information just by doing that. Also, right? With each A, B, C, D, we have action steps. So let's talk about them. So first of all, when we talk about awareness, we take in information I would say 4 different ways, but really if you read books, it'll say 3 ways. Visually, auditory, and kinesthetically, right? With feeling, touching, etc. Now when we're talking about safety, I really like to hone in, and the 4th way would be, I would say, intuition. Right? So visually, it's pretty obvious, right? Checking everything out. Looking, scanning for red flags. That's what detectives are constantly doing, right? They're scanning for red flags. What could be a red flag if you walked into a house? Tell me. Open door. That shouldn't be open. What else?
Light on. Or it was light on.
Lights on. Huh? Unlocked, did someone say? If a door is unlocked, then it should be locked.
Car parked in the front.
A car parked in the front, that shouldn't be there. A window cracked open, anything else? Yeah?
Dead body on the floor.
A dead body on the floor or in the closet.
This is New York.
Thank you, Ozzy, for just keeping it real. Anyone else? Yeah, anything that your gut is going to tell you, hey, this is off, right? So visually, what are things that get in the way of our visual intake of information? Visual intake. Our cell phones. That's some of you are right now, right? If you are constantly plugged into your cell phone here, you cannot possibly be present here. Yes? Good. So a practice of having your cell phone in your guy's pocket, women pocket, or crossbody bag on your body, never left somewhere else. Yes? Okay, good. Auditory, we take in information by hearing the sounds around us. That night I was grabbed on the street, couldn't hear anybody that was sneaking up behind me because I was listening to a voicemail, right? Completely taking my presence, my awareness outside of being present. Make sense? So what are things that can block our hearing? Again, if we're talking on the phone, if we're listening to messages, if we are wearing headphones, again, not just thinking about yourself in an open house, but in your life in general. A lot of people will go outside and run with headphones, etc. Right? Making sure you can hear things around you. And then let's just talk about that intuition. Right? I like to call it your inner GPS. And if you can think of it that way, you can know and trust that your intuition is constantly sending you messages and guidance. The problem or the challenge is that we're usually so plugged in to our to-do list and our cell phones, and we gotta do this and put the sign out and do all these crazy things that we're not present. We're not listening to the intuition and the messages that are coming in. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so what are ways that we can enhance our intuition? Anyone? Yes?
So, in a lot of cases, I think we look at our skill set. For instance, if you're residential or commercial, whatever, you know body signals. You pay attention to people's body signals. You pay attention, you keen in on that. But I think that we need to take it to a different level, which is really using your existing skill set to hone in on sameness and differences and things that make you feel comfortable,
Yeah.
make you feel comforted. So I think that we have the skill set. I think the situational awareness is that we need to develop it.
Yes. So you develop by practice it. I mean, I'm cheating here, right? Unplugging is one. Unplugging from the devices, especially when you are hosting an open house, especially when you are meeting with somebody for the first time in a strange location, right? Put everything away and absolutely unplug. Be present. Practice mindfulness and presence in the moment. Yes?
My inner voice always tells me, don't do it alone.
Don't do it.
Know the people you don't.
Absolutely. If you can have someone there, fantastic. If not, always make sure that somebody else knows where you are and when they're expecting you home, right? Or checking back into the office, wherever you're going next. Someone needs to know where you are, where you're going, and when to expect you back. Now again, those things can't help you in the moment, so you can't rely on those outer safety procedures. Does that make sense? Yes. Ozzy, you know, how long can it take for 911 to get to you physically?
Well, it all depends, which Dunkin' Donuts the cops are at, so that makes a big deal.
I like this guy.
It takes about 5 minutes to get. It take up to 5 minutes to get.
Okay, great. I've heard from other officers that it could take up to 15 minutes.
It depends where you're at.
Sure.
Some cities it's 45 minutes.
Okay. Well, that's the longest estimate I've heard. So again, really, really important to practice presence and mindfulness in the moment. I like to just teach a quick practice just called grounding. If you're not into meditation, anyone here into meditation actually? I should be, okay. So about 2 of you raised your hands. Obviously, as a martial artist and health coach, I think it's so important and such a wonderful practice. And if it's something that you're open to, I would highly, highly recommend it. Why do martial artists meditate? Why do the monks meditate? Because they're trying to enhance their intuition. When they're out there fighting, they can sense, they can see the kick that's coming before it comes. Think about that, right? To see danger before it comes, to read people's energy on a super deep level. Right? And I know I'm getting a little out there. I moved to California, right? It's a little like, woo, talking about people's energy. But it's serious, ask yourself right now, can I read somebody's energy? Yes, of course you can. You could read your kids' energy when they walk through the door, your partner's energy. You can walk into the office and feel the vibe of the energy. You've got this, right? Just take it to another level. Grounding. Right? What if you walked into your open house and before anyone got there, what if you just, again, it might sound a little out there, but what if you just kind of put your hands on the counter or table and sank into your knees a little bit, make sure, again, gadgets are away, you're unplugged. I wouldn't close your eyes because you want your eyes always taking in information, but just kind of take a few deep breaths. So why don't you do that with me? Yeah? Ready? So where you are, just feel grounded to the earth. Feel supported by your chair, by your feet. I like to picture and visualize tree roots going into the ground, right? And just get present and take a few deep breaths. Ready? Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. 2 more. Inhale. Exhale. Last one, inhale. And exhale. Great, now become present to the room. Do you feel the energy shift? Okay, again, what if you started your open houses like that instead of frantic? Right, there's right and left side of the brain. When we relax that vagal nerve in our body, the nerve that runs from your brain to your root, right? When we relax that, that's when intuition is present. That's when you can tap into your inner GPS and get answers and sense danger before it occurs. Yes? Okay, we're gonna move on. B, boundaries. I'd like to talk about boundaries in two separate senses. Basically, you have physical boundaries, right? Thinking of your body in space. And then also mental, emotional boundaries, right? With interpersonal relationships. So let's start with the physical stuff. It's a lot more concrete. Again, I might be going too woo-woo on you. But physical boundaries, thinking of your body in space, right? When you walk into this room, for example, what's the first thing you do? Look around. When you walk into an open a property that you're looking at for the first time, what's the first thing you do? Look around, good. Look for specifically the exits and how to get out. Specifically, right? Looking around is, yeah, good. Looking for exits, knowing how to get out of a situation if you need to, imperative. Make sense? And again, think about this outside of just your work life, going into public concert halls, going into the movie theater, going into restaurants, because life has changed, right? And now people are getting hurt and blown up in movie theaters, in offices, office buildings, in public, right, places. So, you know, there's a difference between being paranoid, right? When I used to teach this stuff 10 years ago, people would be like, gosh, don't you feel paranoid all the time? And I'm like, absolutely not. I find it empowering. Because I don't have to stay in that state the whole time, but I can walk into, now I'm in LA, so the Hollywood Bowl, it's an outdoor arena where I go see concerts, and I can walk in and be like, okay, this is my seat, and that's the exit, and that's the exit, and if anything were to go down, that's where I go. Done. Then I can sit and relax and enjoy the show, right? You don't always have to be at a level red of awareness, right? There's white, yellow, orange, and we build. And you're only at red if something went down. But you can be at, you know, a yellow, which is aware and alert, right? Aware and alert all the time. So back to boundaries. Physical boundaries can work for you or against you, right? So think of if there's an elevator, the door's open, somebody's in there, that your gut, right? You get chills up your arm or a feeling in your gut, right? That's where our intuition, we usually get messages, says, I don't want to get in that elevator with that person. But you do anyway, and the door's closed behind you. What'd you just do? You have a physical boundary work against you. You just locked yourself in a very small area with somebody else, right? Versus you were walking through a parking garage, and you might feel like you're being followed. Again, you get this gut feeling, you don't feel safe. Can you get in that car and lock the doors fast enough, or get in that house or in that bedroom and lock the doors fast enough to make a boundary work for you? Make sense? So again, it's just spatial awareness, thinking about your body in physical space in relation to the things around you. Okay? Next would be, oh, and let's talk about, put this on the court, right? These are like philosophy, right, or theory, but then like let's put it on the court for you. So what does that look like when you are hosting an open house, right? You never want to lock yourself or lead people into an area where you feel, where they can lock the door, right? And all of a sudden you're in a room with this stranger. Make sense? So I like to say, like, take charge. You lead the way. You tell your potential clients how you want this to go. You run the show. And ladies, that doesn't mean you're bitchy. Okay? You can be charming and powerful. You can be charming and nice and, right, control how you want things to go. Yes? Good. So other tips, really quick, what do you do when you have an open house? You want to make sure that you're seeing who's coming and going, right? I walked into an open house in LA, and the realtor was there, didn't even greet me and my husband. I just like started walking up the stairs and walking around the house, and no one greeted me, no one knew who I was, what I was doing, what I was up to. That's kind of weird, right? Yeah, you want to know exactly who you are dealing with. Like I said before, you are in a vulnerable situation, so you need to be in control of it. So you're greeting everybody, you're talking to everybody, you're tapping into your intuition, you're reading their energy, right? And you're scanning for red flags. If you want people to, if someone wants to go and look at other areas of the house, they can go. You can either stand behind them, right, and let them go ahead, or you can just direct them where to go and meet me back here. Make sense? And obviously, right, these are the kind of obvious things that I don't even like to get into, but it's like if someone's like, oh, can you show me the basement? No. Can you show me the attic? No. Right? Good. Okay. So your key takeaways for boundaries are checking out your physical space, checking out your body and physical space. Know and secure all the exits. Know where they are. Know how to get out. Know how other people can get in. Right? Do you all do that? Yes?
That's one I've been more conscious of lately, is when you're opening the house with a buyer that you're meeting that you don't know, when you're concentrating on that deadbolt lock and that screen door has got you closed and you're holding it with your heel of your foot, you're now in a very refined space and they're behind you. So I'm not even conscious of what they're doing. So what I'm trying to do now is pull open the screen door and hit the latch to hold it, then have them look at something in the yard, so I'm more turned to who's behind me as I'm talking about something, and I'm not my back to them.
Fantastic, yes. Never want to keep your back to your client. But what I like what you said was that you're controlling the situation. You're distracting them. Hey, look over there. It's like a puppy, right? Like you're leading how you want it to run. Oh, and then, so, right, mental boundaries, right? Now when we're actually dealing with people in either professional relationships or personal relationships, it's really important to set clear boundaries. Setting clear boundaries can look like creating non-negotiables. Does anyone know what a non-negotiable is? It's basically setting up a rule that people cannot break, right? It's teaching people how to treat you, essentially. So for example, and again, this is not just a female issue, right? There could be potential clients, and even other people in your life that speak to you in a tone that you don't like. Yeah? Say things that make you feel a little put down, or vulnerable, or as those things progress, weak, scared, and even afraid, right? Those are the relationships immediately where we need to set boundaries. And here's the thing, not everybody knows what your boundaries are. So sometimes it is really important to verbally communicate them. So there are two ways to set a mental or emotional boundary. And one is create distance and space. Right? I teach that in self-defense too, right? If you feel physical threat, there's two things you do. One is try and create physical distance and space. Now, in a personal relationship, it's not always so easy. So the second way is that verbally, I need to confront this person or communicate what my boundary is. So again, with a client or potential client that is making you feel uneasy, there's tons of ways that you can set that boundary. There's, like in martial arts, there's hard blocks, and then there's soft blocks. Does that make sense? right? I like to think about that when you're setting boundaries, same thing. A hard block is gonna be like, back up. Getting a little too close. Do not touch me again. Yes? A softer block is gonna be something like, the way you just spoke to me made me feel X, off-put. I didn't like the way you spoke to me. Do you think that's appropriate? Right? Bouncing a question back to them and waiting for that answer, holding that person accountable. Make sense? Right? So all different ways to set boundaries. Has anyone had to do that in a professional setting? Did you have a question?
Actually, I have a question about meeting someone at a house.
Yep.
That you don't know improper English for the first time.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't know if you want to address that, but you know, a lot of people will run out of their house to someone who's not qualified, not this, not that. They won't speak to safety. And they wouldn't say, you know what, Jennifer, I'd like to meet you at the Tim Hortons around or Dunkin' Donuts, whatever, around the corner first, to just go over a little bit of the process. That way you're seen in a public space together before you meet them at the house. And that seems to me to be proactive, and you can speak to the personal safety issue.
Great.
No, the question is, what would you, so the
What's
question
the question?
what would you do
Yeah.
if someone just said, I want to meet with the house, I
Oh.
don't want to do anything beforehand?
Got it. Hard blocks are, no, you have to come to the office first. That's protocol. You can always defer to authority as well. Oh, my office has this protocol and this is how we run things. You don't always have to, tell the whole truth, if that makes sense. If you feel uncomfortable, absolutely no, hard block. Softer block is doing something like I said, oh, this is how we do it at the office. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. For time's sake, I'm gonna hold some questions to the end because I just gotta read and I gotta move. Okay, so create non-negotiables for how you wanna be treated, set those boundaries, and be the boss. Lead the way, lead the show. You're New Yorkers, you can do this, right? Communication, C. How to powerfully communicate any message that you need to convey, but especially when you're communicating boundaries. Three things need to be in alignment, and those three things are physiology, tonality, and vocabulary. Now in a safety situation, we're not even gonna go into the vocabulary. We're just gonna focus on physiology and tonality. The percentages are basically, has anyone heard of Jim Rohn? I bet a lot of realtors have. Yeah, he's like Tony Robbins' guru, right? So the guru of gurus. And he would say that communication is these three things, right? 55% of communication is physiology or body language. And it's in a safety situation, I get that. Because the way we move our body, we're non-verbally communicating all the time. You're all non-verbally communicating to me right now. I know who's paying attention, I know who's getting this, and I know some people that might be a little tuned out, and that's okay, right? 38% is tonality, the tone of your voice. You can play with it up and down, low and high, to get your point across in different ways. And again, only 7% vocabulary. Now, that might not be true when you're giving a state of address of speech or writing a book, but in a safety situation, yes. First things first, boom, physiology. And again, this is gonna help you create better relationships. This is going to convey whether you're confident, whether this person believes, if you're telling the truth about the things you're talking about this house or this property, right? If you can, make direct eye contact with somebody. If you can, walk with your shoulders back, head up, not distracted on your phone with your neck almost like to the floor, right? Head up, shoulders back. Everyone do it with me, sit up real quick. Now I want you to pinch your shoulder blades in your back together, right? And even touch your fingers together if you can. Great, now, hold your shoulders where they are and let your hands dangle by your side. Feels different, yes? Yeah, I know. It's kind of silly, but at the same time, you get used to it. It's also really good for the muscles in your back as you get older and you won't start to hunch over. But what does it convey to other people? Confidence. Self-assuredness. Really quickly, if you haven't seen a TED Talk called on power posing by Amy Cuddy, has anyone seen that? 1, 2. Write that down. Google it tonight. Amy Cuddy, C-U-D-D-Y. She was a scientist at Harvard, and what she did was put people in power poses. And a power pose could look like this. This is called the Wonder Woman for the ladies. Guys, there's star like this, or if you were to kick back, put your hands up like this, if you'd like. I invite you to. I'm not telling you what to do. And if you put your feet on the table, right? That was like one of the guy power poses. Yeah, right? Yeah, there you go. So she did this for 2 minutes. She put these people in these poses for 2 minutes. And after the 2 minutes, she did saliva and blood tests. And what she found was that testosterone, thank you. Testosterone levels, right? Good for confidence, yeah, went up. And even better, cortisol levels, stress hormone, went down. Now, if you could do that before an open house, I do it before I go on stage in front of 1,000 people. I'm like in my hotel room, in my Wonder Woman pose, 2 minutes on the clock, I got this, right? It changes your physiology, thank you. Seriously, like your body chemistry actually changes. So you can trick yourself into feeling more confident even when you're not. Fake it till you make it, but in a real, actual sense. And then obviously tonality, right? And really quickly, I'll just, if I'm going up in the middle or the end of a sentence, that sounds like what? Like I'm asking a question and like I'm not sure of myself. Yet, if I have something powerful to say, I'm going to drop the tone in the middle or end of the sentence. Got that? Same thing. So that, again, you can use when you're closing deals. When someone asks you the price of something, you're not going to go up like this. Like it's 400,000? The price is 400,000. Make sense? Okay. And then we're going to not even go into vocabulary because not important in a safety situation. Okay, really quickly, I like to tell this story when it comes to powerful communication. And I always kind of like, should I tell this story or not? But because we're in New York and this is a bunch of tough New Yorkers, I'm going to tell this story. So this woman, I found her on Instagram, was running in Seattle in a park. A park in broad daylight, a park that she ran in all the time. And she went to use the bathroom. And as she's washing her hands, she looks up and she sees a man in there. And she realized, that's not good, something's about to go down. And sure enough, he went right for her knees, took her down to the floor, and now she's in a fight for her life. And she said, luckily, 2 weeks prior, just 2 weeks, she took one self-defense class. Just one, not black belt, right? One self-defense class. And she said, okay, this doesn't have to be a fair fight. I'm going to go for the eyes, the throat, the groin. And as she's fighting back with all her might, right, from the floor, she said she had a battle cry that she was yelling out loud to her attacker over and over and over again. And that battle cry was, not today, motherfucker! And when I heard this, I was like, oh my God, this woman is amazing. Now she has t-shirts and mugs that say her phrase. And I just thought, what if we all had a battle cry? Not necessarily for those times where we might get attacked, because again, hopefully statistics show that it's probably not going to happen, but to mentally prepare, right? It's like putting on your armor before you go out to do your job, right? It's your mindset shift. And maybe you can come up with a different phrase than that, right? But not today. Nobody's going to mess with me today. Got that? Yeah. Okay. So taking action for communication is practicing perfect posture. It is a practice, right? Making eye contact with everybody in your sight. Dropping your tone when you need to say something powerfully. check your vocabulary, we won't go there, and have a battle cry. Okay, the last one, de-escalate and defense. Sometimes you have practiced all the ABCs. You're aware, you're even meditating, you're enhancing your intuition. You're setting boundaries, you're communicating them powerfully, and sometimes you are in the wrong place at the wrong time. Someone has now evaded your boundaries, right? Some people don't care about your boundaries. And now what, right? And that's when all those other apps that track your location and all the, safety procedures and protocols that you have in place cannot help you in that moment. Obviously, if you can get your hands on your phone and call 911, all of those things, absolutely you do them, but now we're in it, okay? And we're alone and we're out there. De-escalation is where you first hopefully can go. Again, not every situation is gonna allow you to de-escalate. But if somebody is in your face, aggro, getting, you can see their testosterone, their adrenaline, everything is raising, they're starting to sweat, their eyes are bugging out, right? These are things you can pick up on. All right, let's de-escalate if we can. Everybody put your hands up like this. What does that mean? What else does it mean? Ozzy? What else? I surrender. From a predator's view, right? I surrender. You don't really, but this means this is just trying to get the person to calm down. You want them to go from a 10 to a 9, 8, 7, right? So other ways. Hands up. What's your name? I know your name, but say it. Peter. Peter, I'm sorry you feel like this right now. I understand why you're upset, right? What can we do to make it better? Peter, can I get to know you any bit more? Do you have children? I mean, these are anything you can do to relate on a human level to somebody that's out of 10 could possibly bring them down. Now, obviously, you can't always do that, and that's when personal defense comes in, self-defense. Anyone here ever take a self-defense class? Okay, great. I encourage you, if you haven't, to do that, right? Because you need to know how to use your body as a weapon. Let's quickly, what do you think? I'm so out of time, almost. Do we all have somewhere to be at 10 exactly? Okay, so really quickly, Ozzy, do you mind just being my demo?
I would, but I got
You gotta go?
patient, my back hurts right now.
Oh, okay.
I can't get up right now if I wanted to. Say no, seriously.
I got it.
Yeah, I need to.
I'm not gonna touch anyone. Here's the thing. You need to know a couple things. Does anyone want to be my demo partner?
Joe.
You need to know.
Has to be a man.
Doesn't have to be a man, but we got one. Thank you so much. Okay, literally, I'm not going to touch you. Got that?
Oh, too bad.
Okay. I'm going to have to set some boundaries here. Okay, so we need to know weapons on your body and where to strike in order to do the most amount of, or effective damage with the least amount of effort. Look, right? This man is going to be stronger physically than me, so I have to leverage what I have. Does that make sense? If you can't run and you can't get out of there, 3 most effective targets are eyes, throat, and groin. Got it? If you walk away with anything today, remember that. Eyes, throat, groin. If you were to just scratch someone in the eyes or poke somebody in the eyes, what happens to Joe? What happens to your eyes? Boom, right. See that motion? Boom, flew back, which great, opens up second target, right? What happens if you were to hit somebody right in the trachea? Disruption of breathing at the least, right? Side of the neck, wham, what's here? Carotid artery brings blood and oxygen up and down to the brain, which can, if quick enough and fast enough, could drop someone to their knees, possibly. Again, you have to train in this. And then last but not least, on a male attacker, what's that last one gonna be? Joe, I'm going, boom, what happens? There you go, right? Again, if you can, if you are in a grab or a hold, you want to be able to, and you can go ahead and just grab me, right? Just grab me somehow. I'm not strong enough to get out of this. I mean, right? If you're not trained. So I want to just be able to shock, shock, shock until that opens up and I can possibly get away. That's what I teach in my self-defense seminars. Thank you so much, Joe. Is options, right? Self-defense is all about having options. It's not just going, yikes, you know, here I am, a victim. It's how can I change my mindset to all of a sudden say, no, I am powerful. There is strength within me. I know these few little tips, and maybe I even have a battle cry, right? Sometimes it's all about attitude. And I learned that on the street. And I'm not saying that works every time, okay? Every situation is going to be different. But other things that you can do to arm yourself, besides physical self-defense, are having a panic alarm. Do you have a panic alarm either on your phone or on your keychain? One thing it'll do is, what's the matter? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good, I'm just in pain, but.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was because of the panic alarm. Okay. I was like, is that no good? Panic alarms will, right, deter somebody. They don't want to get caught. And the noise can be heard from 300 feet away, right? They don't want to get caught, but also, yeah, it could hopefully have somebody flee. Oh, or it can alert a bystander, right? It depends if you're in a secluded area or not so secluded. Pepper spray, does anybody carry a pepper spray? Yeah? Okay, good. Maybe more of you should. And then one more level is going to be a stun gun, right? I don't necessarily promote any of these things. It's really, again, just being prepared. Stun guns are tricky only because you have to be this close to your attacker. A pepper spray, you're going to be able to hold an attacker away about 10 to 15 feet. Does that make sense? Okay, great. And then obviously there's improvised weapons that are around the house that you can grab, like knives and coffee mugs and all kinds of stuff that you can use in the moment to arm yourself. Again, it's another level of training. And I will just wrap, because I know it's time. I want to just review the ABCs of self-defense. A, if the least thing that you do the next time you go out is become more aware, right? Visually, auditory, kinesthetically, and most importantly, tap into your intuition, ground yourself, be present and aware, that would be amazing. Boundaries, set them. Be clear about what your boundaries are. Know what they are. You might not even know what your boundaries are. C, communicate them powerfully with physiology. Oh, yeah, I realized that I messed up on that slide. Okay, and then de-escalate when you can, and practice, learn self-defense. If you'd like to connect with me, I'll be here. I'm not leaving until the last person in the room is here. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you'd like to share a story or want advice or anything, please let me know. I left postcards on most of the seats there. I have a self-defense class online, just the basics. If you want to learn how to use your body as a weapon, there's a discount code for you. Otherwise, thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you again. Thank you.